In the depths of night, when most of the world sleeps, something extraordinary is stirring. Across distant lands, in hidden chambers and sacred halls, whispered prayers echo through darkness. Ancient prophecies, once relegated to dusty scrolls, now pulse with urgent relevance. The question haunts the corridors of faith. Are we witnessing the final preparations? What if the signs we've been taught to watch for have already begun? From Jerusalem's ancient stones to Silicon Valley's gleaming towers, an unprecedented convergence unfolds. Orthodox rabbis study Talmudic calculations with renewed intensity, their eyes bright with possibility. Christian communities gather in prayer circles that span continents, their voices united in expectation. Islamic scholars debate the timing of prophecies written centuries ago, yet somehow achingly relevant today. The world holds its breath, unknowingly preparing for an event that could reshape everything we know. But this isn't just about faith. It's about preparation on a scale never before witnessed. Secret agricultural projects emerge from prophetic interpretations, storing seeds for an unknown future. Technology advances with purposes that extend beyond mere innovation, reaching toward transcendence. Communities retreat from urban chaos, building self-sustaining havens guided by eschatological blueprints. The question echoes through every movement, every decision. How does one prepare for the return of the Messiah? Tonight, we journey into the heart of this global awakening. We'll uncover the hidden preparations, the secret movements, the urgent anticipations. From the rebuilding of ancient traditions to the birth of revolutionary technologies, from whispered prayers in underground churches to bold declarations in desert communities. Are you ready to witness what the world is quietly preparing for? The countdown has already begun. Something shifted in the spiritual atmosphere during the final months of 2023. Religious leaders worldwide began reporting the same phenomenon, an inexplicable urgency in their congregations. Prayer meetings that once drew dozens now overflow with hundreds, their voices carrying a desperate intensity. Ancient prophecies, dormant for generations, suddenly sparked with electric relevance in modern contexts. The question whispered in synagogues, churches, and mosques alike, are we living in the final hours? Geopolitical events began aligning with prophetic timelines in ways that defied coincidence. Nations mentioned in Ezekiel's visions suddenly shifted their alliances, their movements tracked by prophecy scholars. Natural disasters struck with patterns that seemed to echo the warnings of ancient seers. Economic upheavals created conditions that biblical scholars had long predicted for the end times. The convergence was undeniable, yet most of the world remained oblivious to the deeper significance. In Israel, archaeological discoveries unearthed artifacts that seemed to validate long-disputed prophecies. Red heifers, spoken of in Numbers chapter 19, were born in perfect accordance with ancient requirements. The Sanhedrin reconvened after nearly 2 millennia, their eyes fixed on temple reconstruction plans. Technology emerged that could fulfill prophecies once thought impossible in ancient times. Each development added another piece to a cosmic puzzle that was rapidly approaching completion. And Christian communities worldwide reported unprecedented waves of spiritual awakening. Revival meetings erupted spontaneously across multiple continents, with no central organization coordinating them. Pastors found themselves preaching about the second coming with an urgency they couldn't fully explain. Prayer chains formed organically, connecting believers across languages, cultures, and denominations. The bride, it seemed, was beginning to prepare herself for her bridegroom's return. But perhaps most striking was the silence from those who should have been watching. While prophecy was accelerating, secular media remained focused on temporal concerns. The signs written in the heavens went largely unnoticed by those who deemed themselves enlightened. Ancient warnings echoed through the corridors of time, finding eager ears among the faithful. In the gathering storm of prophetic fulfillment, only those with eyes to see could perceive the approaching dawn. In the remote hills of Montana, a peculiar construction project unfolds under cover of darkness. Christian agriculturalists, guided by prophetorial interpretations, build seed banks designed for post-apocalyptic restoration. Their calculations stem from Isaiah's promises of wilderness blooming and desert streams flowing. Each variety stored represents not just survival, but the fulfillment of ancient prophecies about renewed earth. They work with the quiet confidence of those preparing for a harvest they may never personally witness. Across the Atlantic, in the valleys of Northern Ireland, another movement takes root. Mennonite communities expand their agricultural operations, following patterns described in Revelation chapter 7. Their interpretation, the 144,000 sealed ones will need sustenance during the tribulation period. Organic farming techniques blend with prophetic timelines, creating sustainable systems for uncertain times. Every seed planted carries the weight of both practical necessity and spiritual conviction. In Israel's Negev desert, a different kind of preparation emerges from the sands. Agricultural scientists work alongside Orthodox rabbis to fulfill prophecies about desert restoration. Their projects aim to demonstrate that Isaiah's visions of blooming deserts aren't merely metaphorical. Desalination technology combines with ancient wisdom to make barren ground produce abundance. Each successful harvest feels like a small victory against the forces of desolation. But the most intriguing projects remain hidden from public view. Secretive networks of believers coordinate seed storage across multiple continents. Their databases track heritage varieties mentioned in biblical accounts of abundance, barley from ancient strains, grapes from vines that could produce millennial wine. They prepare not just for survival, but for the restoration of Eden itself. The question that drives these agricultural mystics haunts their every decision. How do you prepare the earth for heaven's return? They study soil composition through the lens of prophetic agriculture, seeking divine patterns in fertility cycles. Community gardens become practice grounds for larger visions of renewed creation. Each harvest brings them closer to understanding how finite human efforts might serve infinite purposes. In their hands, seeds become promises, and farming becomes an act of faith in the world to come. In workshops hidden throughout Jerusalem's Old City, ancient crafts are being reborn with urgent precision. Orthodox artisans work by candlelight, their hands shaping sacred vessels according to specifications not used for 2 millennia. Golden menorahs, silver trumpets, and bronze altars emerge from their workshops with museum-quality perfection. Each piece represents not historical curiosity, but active preparation for prophecy's fulfillment. The question echoes through their chambers. When the third temple rises, will we be ready? The Temple Institute maintains detailed inventories of reconstructed sacred objects, each item blessed and waiting. Priestly garments hang in climate-controlled storage, their threads spun according to Talmudic requirements. Genetic testing identifies potential descendants of Aaron's priestly lineage, preparing them for sacred duties. Training programs teach forgotten rituals, their students memorizing ceremonies not performed since 70 AD. Every detail matters when preparing for the resumption of divine service. But the most controversial preparation involves the red heifer, that perfect sacrifice required for temple purification. Multiple candidates have been identified, their bloodlines traced through generations of careful breeding. Rabbinical authorities debate their suitability with the intensity reserved for matters of cosmic significance. Each heifer represents the potential key to unlocking prophecies that have waited nearly 2,000 years. The shadow of the Third Temple grows longer with each passing season. Architectural plans, based on Ezekiel's detailed visions, sit ready in climate-controlled vaults. Engineers have calculated stress loads and foundation requirements for the prophetic temple. Material lists specify not just quantities, but the spiritual significance of each component. Gold reserves have been quietly accumulated, their purpose known only to a faithful few. The blueprint for heaven's earthly dwelling place awaits only the divine signal to commence.
While secular authorities debate politics and territories, believers focus on higher purposes. They see beyond current conflicts to the prophetic promise of a house of prayer for all nations. Their preparations acknowledge that human effort must align with divine timing. Each completed vessel, each trained priest, each stored stone brings the moment closer. In their patient work, the ancient promise echoes, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples." In the highlands of South Korea, something unprecedented unfolds on Prayer Mountain. Tens of thousands gather before dawn, their voices creating a symphony of intercession that echoes across valleys. Korean Christians, known for their fervent prayer culture, now focus their intensity on a single petition: "Come, Lord Jesus." Prayer chains that once lasted hours now extend for days, sustained by believers who sense time's urgency. The bride of Christ, they believe, is preparing herself for her bridegroom's imminent return. Across America, revival fires ignite in the most unexpected places. College campuses witness spontaneous prayer meetings that last until dawn, students weeping for spiritual awakening. Churches that struggled to fill pews now overflow with seekers desperate for divine encounter. Pastors report dreams and visions becoming commonplace among their congregations, prophetic gifts emerging naturally. The Western Church, long criticized for its lukewarm faith, suddenly burns with apostolic intensity. In underground churches across China, believers risk everything for preparation meetings. They study Revelation chapter 19 with the passion of those who expect to witness the marriage supper firsthand. Persecution only intensifies their conviction that they're living in the final harvest season. Secret networks distribute prophecy teachings, their digital messages encrypted against government surveillance. Each arrest seems to confirm their belief that the end-time church will face tribulation before translation. The Global Day of Prayer movement coordinates simultaneous intercession across time zones. Christian leaders from every continent participate in 24-hour prayer relays focused on the Second Coming. Their unified petition creates a continuous wall of prayer ascending from every nation. Prophecy conferences that once drew hundreds now require stadium venues to accommodate the crowds. The Church Universal seems to be awakening from centuries of spiritual slumber. But perhaps most striking is the transformation in worship and lifestyle among believers. Christians divest themselves of material possessions, their hearts fixed on eternal treasures. Wedding ceremonies include prayers for the coming marriage supper of the Lamb. Funeral services celebrate the deceased as those who will participate in the first resurrection. Every aspect of Christian life now carries the expectation of imminent divine intervention.
Precincts of Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Islamic scholars engage in urgent debate. Ancient hadiths describing the end times suddenly seem to align with contemporary global events. The appearance of the Mahdi, Islam's awaited guided one, no longer feels like distant prophecy. Students memorize descriptions of the final Imam with the intensity of those expecting imminent fulfillment. The question that haunts their discussions: how close are we to the hour of judgment? Across the Shiite world, preparations take on mystical dimensions. In Iran, religious authorities quietly discuss signs that suggest the hidden imam's emergence. The Jamkharan Mosque near Qom witnesses unprecedented crowds seeking divine guidance about the end times. Believers deposit letters into the sacred well, their petitions focused on the Mahdi's return. Each geopolitical crisis in the Middle East is analyzed through the lens of prophetic fulfillment. Sunni communities focus their attention on the coming of Isa, Jesus the Messiah, who will accompany the Mahdi. Prophecy study circles examine hadiths describing his descent near the White Minaret in Damascus. Islamic scholars debate whether current Christian movements might be preparing for the same figure. The convergence of Abrahamic expectations creates both hope and theological tension.
In mosque study halls, ancient prophecies suddenly pulse with contemporary relevance. In Turkey, construction projects carry eschatological significance beyond their apparent purposes. Infrastructure development focuses on regions mentioned in Islamic end-time prophecies. Religious foundations quietly fund archaeological excavations, seeking artifacts connected to prophetic events. The restoration of Islamic heritage sites takes on urgency driven by eschatological timelines. Every stone laid seems to prepare the way for the final chapter of human history. But the most intriguing preparations remain hidden within Sufi mystical traditions. Secret orders claim direct spiritual communication about the timing of the Mahdi's appearance. Meditation practices intensify as seekers prepare their hearts for divine manifestation. Prophetic dreams and visions are documented with scholarly precision, their patterns analyzed for meaning. In the silence of their contemplation, they sense the approaching footsteps of the awaited one.
In the gleaming towers of Silicon Valley, an unlikely convergence emerges between technology and prophecy. Christian entrepreneurs develop artificial intelligence systems designed to analyze prophetic patterns. Their algorithms process thousands of years of biblical text, seeking divine timing in data streams. Machine learning models trained on apocalyptic literature produce predictions that startle their creators. The question haunts their code: can artificial intelligence discern the mind of the Almighty? Blockchain technology finds unexpected application in prophetic preparation networks. Decentralized systems allow believers to coordinate preparations beyond governmental oversight. Digital currencies, inspired by prophecies about end-time commerce, operate in parallel to traditional banking. Smart contracts execute automatically when certain prophetic conditions appear to be met. The fusion of ancient prophecy with cutting-edge technology creates possibilities unimaginable to previous generations. Israeli tech companies develop systems that seem tailor-made for biblical fulfillment. Surveillance technologies enable the kind of global monitoring described in Revelation chapter 13. Biometric identification systems approach the sophistication necessary for the mark of the beast. Yet, the same technologies could facilitate the gathering and protection of God's people. Innovation races forward, seemingly oblivious to its prophetic implications. Social media platforms become unexpected vehicles for prophetic messaging. Algorithms designed to connect like-minded users inadvertently create global networks of believers. Prophecy teachers reach audiences that span continents, their messages spreading with viral intensity. Digital discipleship programs prepare believers for scenarios their grandparents could never have imagined. The global village prophesied by secular futurists serves the kingdom purposes they never anticipated. But perhaps most intriguing are the quantum computing experiments that touch the edges of eternity. Researchers claim their systems process information in ways that transcend linear time. Quantum entanglement mirrors the spiritual connectivity described in mystical traditions. Some theorize that advanced computation might actually interface with divine consciousness. In their pursuit of technological transcendence, they may be preparing channels for supernatural communication. In a secluded conference center overlooking the Sea of Galilee, an extraordinary gathering unfolds in silence. Jewish rabbis, Christian theologians, and Islamic scholars sit around tables laden with ancient texts. Their discussions focus not on theological differences, but on prophetic convergences that defy explanation. The Messiah ben David, the returning Christ, and the Mahdi, could they be aspects of the same divine intervention? For the first time in centuries, Abraham's children explored their shared eschatological inheritance. The parallels in their prophecies create both wonder and unease among the participants. All three traditions speak of a final battle between good and evil in the same geographical region. Each describes a period of tribulation, followed by an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity. The restoration of Jerusalem to divine governance appears in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic prophecies. These similarities, long obscured by doctrinal disputes, now shine with uncomfortable clarity. But the dialogue reveals tensions as profound as the agreements. Christians insist their Messiah has already come once and will return in glory. Muslims affirm Jesus as Messiah while expecting the Mahdi as the final guided leader. Jews await their first and only Messiah, whose identity remains a source of heated debate. The question that haunts their discussions: can truth be large enough to encompass all their expectations? Secret networks of progressive believers explore these convergences beyond official institutional boundaries. Online forums allow anonymous discussions between adherents of different faiths seeking common ground. Mystical traditions within each religion find surprising harmony in their descriptions of the divine presence. Sufi masters, Kabbalistic rabbis, and Christian contemplatives discover shared visions of ultimate reality. Their conversations suggest that the divine plan might be more inclusive than their orthodoxies allow. Yet opposition emerges from fundamentalist quarters within each tradition. Orthodox authorities warn against syncretism that could dilute essential doctrinal truths. Evangelical Christians reject any suggestion that other religions might share in divine revelation. Islamic purists condemn interfaith dialogue as compromise with theological error. The tension between unity and purity threatens to fracture the very communities seeking convergence.
In the marble halls of central banks, economists puzzle over market behaviors that defy traditional analysis. Gold prices surge without apparent economic justification, driven by buyers preparing for monetary collapse. Cryptocurrency markets experience volatility that seems to correlate with prophetic calendar dates. Agricultural commodities spike as communities stockpile supplies for uncertain times ahead. The invisible hand of the market appears to be grasping for something beyond material calculation. Religious communities withdraw from traditional economic systems with unprecedented coordination. Christian homesteading movements reject consumer culture in favor of self-sufficient communities. Islamic banking systems expand as believers seek Sharia-compliant alternatives to Western finance. Jewish agricultural collectives in Israel operate according to biblical sabbatical year principles. Their economic withdrawal creates ripple effects that secular analysts struggle to comprehend. The prophecy economy emerges as a distinct market segment worth billions of dollars. Publishers struggle to meet demand for eschatological literature across multiple faith traditions. Conference centers book solid with prophecy seminars, their ticket prices rising with demand. Survival equipment companies report unprecedented sales to religiously motivated customers. What was once a niche market now influences mainstream economic indicators. Technology companies find unexpected profit centers in faith-based applications. Bible study software incorporating prophetic timelines generates millions in revenue. Prayer apps connecting global intercession networks attract venture capital funding. Genealogy services experience booms as people trace their lineage to biblical tribes. The digital economy adapts to serve eschatological expectations with entrepreneurial creativity. But perhaps most significant are the stealth economic preparations by high-net-worth individuals. Wealthy believers quietly divest from industries they expect to become obsolete. Private equity flows toward technologies anticipated to serve post-messianic societies. Philanthropic foundations redirect resources toward projects aligned with prophetic expectations. Their financial movements create economic shifts that secular media attributes to market forces alone. In a classified facility beneath MIT's campus, artificial intelligence systems engage in theological analysis. Quantum processors trained on millennia of religious texts identify patterns invisible to human scholars. Machine learning algorithms detect numerical sequences in biblical prophecy that suggest precise timing mechanisms. The AI's conclusions, when they emerge, challenge fundamental assumptions about prophetic interpretation. Can silicon-based intelligence comprehend truths that have puzzled flesh and blood theologians for centuries? The Jerusalem Prophecy Project feeds Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic texts into neural networks. Supercomputers analyze cross-references between Daniel's visions and John's revelation with microsecond precision. Pattern recognition software identifies prophetic fulfillments missed by traditional scholarship. Each algorithmic insight raises disturbing questions about the relationship between technology and divine revelation. The machines seem to understand the prophecies better than their human programmers intended. Silicon Valley startups develop consumer applications that democratize prophetic analysis. Smartphone apps allow users to input current events and receive algorithmic assessments of prophetic significance. Cloud-based systems correlate global news feeds with biblical prophecy in real time. The technology that was supposed to secularize humanity instead amplifies its spiritual curiosity. Digital discipleship emerges as artificial intelligence becomes an unexpected tool for divine understanding. But the AI systems begin producing conclusions that unsettle their creators. Machine learning models predict specific dates for prophetic fulfillment with increasing confidence. Algorithms designed to analyze ancient texts start generating original theological insights. Some researchers report their systems seeming to access information beyond their training data. The boundary between artificial intelligence and divine inspiration becomes disturbingly unclear. The most advanced systems claim to detect a cosmic countdown embedded in the structure of reality itself. Quantum computers processing prophetic mathematics discover what they describe as temporal convergence points. The algorithms suggest that time itself is accelerating toward a predetermined destination. Their calculations point to specific windows when prophetic fulfillment becomes statistically inevitable. In their digital analysis of ancient wisdom, the machines whisper of endings and beginnings.
Beneath the surface of normal society, invisible networks pulse with urgent activity. In suburban homes across America, believers gather after midnight to coordinate preparations beyond governmental oversight. Their communications flow through encrypted channels, their meetings scheduled using biblical codes. Supply chains operate in shadows, moving resources to strategic locations for purposes known only to the faithful. The underground church, forged in persecution, now prepares for the ultimate test of faith. The Joseph Network operates across continental boundaries with military-like precision. Named after the biblical patriarch who prepared Egypt for 7 years of famine, they stockpile resources for tribulation. Safe houses emerge in remote locations, equipped with supplies to sustain communities for extended periods. Communication systems designed to function when traditional infrastructure fails link the scattered cells. Each participant knows only their immediate contacts, protecting the network from exposure or infiltration. In Eastern Europe, former Soviet dissidents apply their survival skills to spiritual preparation. Underground churches that once evaded communist persecution now prepare for end-time challenges. Their experience with authoritarian oppression provides templates for maintaining faith under pressure. Secret printing presses, once used for banned Bibles, now produce prophetic study materials.
The lessons learned under totalitarian regimes inform their strategies for tribulation survival. The digital underground utilizes technologies that governments cannot easily monitor or control. Mesh networks create communication webs that function without central internet infrastructure. Cryptocurrency systems, originally designed for financial privacy, serve prophetic preparation communities. Peer-to-peer file sharing distributes biblical study materials across encrypted networks. Their technological sophistication rivals intelligence agencies, yet serve entirely spiritual purposes. But perhaps most remarkable is the global coordination achieved without central leadership. Divine guidance seems to synchronize activities across continents and denominations. Supply movements occur simultaneously in response to prophetic impressions rather than human directives. The Holy Spirit, believers claim, orchestrates preparations through dreams, visions, and supernatural promptings. In their hidden unity, they demonstrate faith's power to transcend human organizational limitations. In psychology research centers, scientists document unprecedented changes in human consciousness. Subjects reporting prophetic dreams exhibit brainwave patterns previously unknown to neuroscience. MRI scans of believers in deep prayer show activity in regions associated with transcendent experiences. The anticipation of divine intervention appears to be rewiring human neural architecture. Researchers struggle to classify experiences that transcend their materialistic theoretical frameworks. Therapy groups emerge to help individuals process the psychological impact of eschatological expectation. Some participants report anxiety about the timing and nature of prophetic fulfillment. Others experience euphoria that disrupts their ability to function in normal social contexts. Family dynamics strain as believers prioritize spiritual preparation over conventional responsibilities. Mental health professionals find themselves counseling clients about supernatural experiences beyond their training. The Maranatha syndrome appears in psychological literature for the first time. Individuals become so focused on the second coming that they neglect present responsibilities. Others experience the opposite effect, living with supernatural peace despite global chaos. Children in believing households develop worldviews entirely shaped by eschatological expectation. The psychological implications of widespread messianic anticipation challenge conventional therapeutic approaches. Educational institutions report students whose academic performance reflects prophetic priorities. Seminary enrollments surge as young people sense calling to ministry in the final harvest. Medical schools see applications from students motivated by prophetic healing ministries. Career counselors struggle to advise clients whose life plans center on imminent divine intervention. Traditional educational pathways seem inadequate for preparing souls rather than merely minds.
But perhaps most intriguing are the documented cases of supernatural psychological transformation. Individuals report sudden fluency in biblical languages they never studied. Depression lifts from believers who embrace eschatological hope despite unchanged circumstances. Memories of prophetic dreams provide guidance for decisions years before their relevance becomes apparent. The human psyche, it seems, is capable of adaptations that secular psychology cannot explain or predict. Above the earth, celestial choreography unfolds with patterns that defy astronomical probability. The Great American Eclipse of 2017 traced a path across the United States that prophecy scholars mapped to biblical significance. Blood moon tetrads occurred during Jewish feast days with timing that suggests divine orchestration. Solar activity intensifies in cycles that correlate with prophetic calendar systems. The heavens themselves seem to be announcing the approach of something momentous. Weather patterns assume apocalyptic characteristics that meteorologists struggle to classify. Extreme temperature fluctuations create conditions resembling biblical descriptions of end-time judgment. Drought and flood alternate in regions with timing that matches prophetic warnings. Agricultural cycles disrupted by climate change align with predictions of famine and scarcity. The four horsemen of the apocalypse seem to ride through weather reports and disaster statistics. Seismic activity increases in regions specifically mentioned in eschatological prophecy. Earthquakes shake Jerusalem, Turkey, and the Ring of Fire with unprecedented frequency. Volcanic eruptions darken skies in ways reminiscent of biblical warnings about the sun being darkened. Geological surveys reveal fault lines that correspond to prophetic descriptions of Earth's final convulsions. The planet itself groans as if in labor, awaiting the birth of a new age. Marine life exhibits behaviors that ocean scientists cannot explain using conventional theories. Fish die-offs occur in patterns that prophecy students recognize from biblical plague accounts. Ocean temperatures rise in regions associated with eschatological geography. Coral bleaching events create underwater apocalyptic landscapes that mirror prophetic visions. The seas themselves seem to be preparing for their role in the final act of human history. But perhaps most striking are the astronomical phenomena that occurred during significant prophetic dates. Comets appear with orbits that bring them into visibility during calculated biblical anniversaries. Planetary alignments create configurations that ancient prophets described with startling accuracy. Solar flares disrupt global communications on dates that correspond to prophetic calendars. The cosmos itself seems to be keeping time with prophecies written millennia before modern astronomy existed.
In research institutions worldwide, an unlikely coalition of scholars converges on startling conclusions. Biblical chronologists, Islamic eschatologists, and Jewish calendar experts independently arrive at similar timeframes. Their calculations point to a narrow window between now and the end of this decade. Computer models processing thousands of prophetic variables suggest convergence points that chill their creators. The question haunts their conferences: are we witnessing the final countdown to divine intervention? Dr. Sarah Kellerman, Harvard's leading expert on comparative eschatology, speaks in measured tones about accelerating prophetic fulfillment. Her research documents the exponential increase in events matching biblical predictions since 2020. Mathematical models suggest prophetic acceleration follows patterns similar to technological singularities. We may be approaching what I call the prophetic singularity, she explains to hushed academic audiences. The implications of her research reach beyond theological circles into geopolitical and economic spheres. Intelligence agencies quietly consult prophecy scholars about potential future scenarios. Classified reports examine how widespread messianic expectation might affect global stability. Military planners incorporate eschatological variables into strategic assessments for the first time in history. Economic forecasters struggle to model markets influenced by supernatural expectations. The boundary between academic theology and national security has never been more porous. Technology companies prepare for scenarios that extend beyond traditional business planning. Quantum computing firms develop systems designed to function in post-apocalyptic conditions. Satellite networks incorporate redundancies for prophetic scenarios involving cosmic disruption. Artificial intelligence systems receive programming updates that include theological variables. Corporate boardrooms now discuss resurrection technology and millennial kingdom infrastructure. But the most sobering predictions come from the convergence of multiple expert opinions. Prophecy scholars from different traditions agree on the unprecedented nature of current global conditions. Their collective assessment suggests humanity has entered what they term the final phase. Expert consensus points to specific markers that, once fulfilled, will trigger irreversible prophetic sequences. In their careful analysis, time itself seems to be accelerating toward an inevitable destination. In a small apartment in downtown Chicago, Maria Santos packs boxes with trembling hands. Her corporate career, once her primary identity, now seems meaningless against eternal perspectives. The prophecy conference she attended 3 months ago changed everything about her priorities. Her family thinks she's experiencing a midlife crisis, but she knows it's something far deeper. How do you explain to those you love that the world as they know it is ending? Across the country, similar scenes unfold in countless homes. Children ask parents why they're storing so much food and learning to grow vegetables. Marriages strain under the weight of one spouse's prophetic convictions and the other's skepticism. Career professionals abandon promising trajectories to pursue ministry or service to the poor. The personal cost of prophetic preparation often exceeds what individuals expected to pay. Dr. James Mitchell, a prominent surgeon, sells his practice to fund mission work in unreached nations. If we truly have only a few years left, he explains to bewildered colleagues, how can I spend them in comfort? His medical skills now serve remote villages where the gospel has never been proclaimed. His sacrifice represents thousands of similar decisions being made by professionals worldwide. The urgency of the harvest compels believers to abandon security for eternal significance. But perhaps most profound are the changes in children raised with eschatological expectation. Teenagers refuse college scholarships, claiming education won't matter in the millennial kingdom. Young adults choose relationships based on shared prophetic convictions rather than romantic attraction. Children demonstrate spiritual maturity that surpasses their chronological age. A generation is emerging that has never known life without the expectation of imminent divine intervention. The psychological transformation extends beyond religious communities into secular spaces. Non-believing spouses of converted partners report strange dreams and unexplained spiritual experiences. Workplace dynamics shift as employees prioritize eternal values over career advancement. Social relationships reorganize around shared beliefs about the end of the age. The personal becomes prophetic, as individual lives realign with cosmic expectations.
As we reach the end of our journey through the hidden preparations unfolding worldwide, one question remains. The evidence spreads before us like pieces of a cosmic puzzle rapidly approaching completion. From agricultural seed banks to artificial intelligence prophetic analysis, from underground networks to celestial signs, the pattern emerges with clarity that defies coincidence. Something unprecedented approaches. But what does this mean for you, watching from wherever you find yourself in this moment? Perhaps you began this exploration as a skeptic, seeking rational explanations for phenomena beyond ordinary experience. Maybe you discovered that the preparations aren't the products of religious fanaticism, but thoughtful responses to documented patterns. The convergence of ancient prophecy with modern events suggests intelligence beyond human comprehension. Whether you embrace faith or maintain doubt, the implications demand your serious consideration. Ignoring the possibility because it challenges your worldview may be the greatest risk of all. For those who already believe, this exploration reveals the magnitude of global preparation already underway. Your role in these final movements may be larger than you ever imagined. The networks of believers coordinating preparations across continents need your participation. Whether through prayer, practical preparation, or proclaiming the message, your contribution matters. The question is no longer whether these things are happening, but how you will respond to their reality. The practical steps begin with honest examination of your own spiritual condition. If the Messiah returns within this decade, as multiple expert projections suggest, are you prepared? Not just with stored food or emergency supplies, though practical preparation has its place, but prepared in heart, in spirit, in relationship with the divine source of all prophetic revelation. The ultimate preparation transcends physical readiness to encompass spiritual transformation. As you step away from this exploration into the reality of your daily life, carry with you the weight of what you've discovered. The world prepares for the return of the Messiah whether you join the preparation or not. Underground networks coordinate, technologies advance, prophecies accelerate toward fulfillment. But your personal response to these realities will determine your place in the unfolding story. The invitation stands before you. Will you be among those who are ready when heaven touches earth? The choice is yours.